back to Consider This. Melisa and Sharaad here with you today. Now, the Electoral Reform Committee, or the ERC, today presented its interim report to the Prime Minister, to Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. This report was based on 21 stakeholder engagement sessions, which were conducted over the 16 months since the ERC was set up in August of 2018. So the full report is expected by August. Now, to discuss this further, we have joining us on the line Thomas Fann, Chairperson of Bersih 2.0. Good evening, Thomas. Thank you for joining us today. Now, the interim report has been presented to government, but its contents has not been made available to the public. So, Thomas, how do we as a country begin to have a conversation about electoral reform without even knowing its contents?
Well, I think the report has just been handed in today. So I think we do hope that it will be made public, but we are not sure yet. But I don't see any reason why this report should not be made public, because the whole purpose is to get people discussing in conversation, so that they can provide feedback to the committee that is looking into this.
Thomas, maybe you can help us or help the public remember exactly the purpose of the Reform Committee, the different dimensions that it was tasked to look at in order for us to have a clear sense of what the conversation could be like.
Well, the committee was formed by Mahathir, to Dr. Mahathir, basically to look into the overall review of anything to do with election. How can we improve our election so that it is up to world standards? I think this is basically on the background of how Bersih over the years have been demanding for free and fair elections. I think the opposition then, Pakatan Harapan, also rode along with that. And I think now that they are in power, they want to see how they can improve things. And that was why it was formed back in August last year.
Okay, so I understand in the interim report there are 15 areas that the ERC is looking into. So based on these 15, Thomas, which are, would you reckon, the most pressing concerns and why?
Yeah, there were 15 areas that the ERC was looking at. And in my mind, the most important area of reform that we need to look at is the reform of the Election Commission itself, or any election management body. Because without an independent and empowered Election Commission, all the other reform would come to nothing, because there will be no independent body to enforce any reform or to ensure that the playing field is level when it comes to election. So for me, number one is the reform of the EC, or Election Management Body. The second thing that, in my view, very, very critical right now is to look at changing the electoral system from first past the post to something more proportional. The reason for that is that because why people engineer the election system is to deal with some inherent structural problem that exists in the country. I think one of the main concerns that we're having right now is the rise of identity politics, of ethnic racial politics. And I think the current election system does give incentive to politicians to use race and religion. So we want to see how we can tweak it and change it by incorporating a proportional representation system or a mixed system. And related to that is also delineation, because currently the boundaries are very badly drawn. Malapportionment is horrendous. So we have to somehow find a way to trigger redelineation of the election boundary even before G15. The third one in my list of importance is political financing. How political parties get their money. And because, as you know, the change in government this time was due to the scandal of 1MDB. And the excuse given was that money was needed to campaign to fund the party. But because there's no law governing that, we have a grand corruption that took place. So we want to look at how political parties fund themselves, and including public funding. Because if you don't give money openly, publicly, to the political party, they'll find it somewhere else, and oftentimes corruptly. So that, to me, are the three most important things.
Thomas, if you could help us, these are not very easy issues to resolve. I mean, neither the malapportionment issue nor the question of making it more democratic. I mean, could you walk us through one of the key, I think, perhaps barriers to change, which is the structure of the federation? And Sabah and Sarawak, will a more proportional system actually reduce their representation at the National Assembly? And could that be a reason for them not buying into a system such as a proportional system that, at whatever model that comes with it?
Yeah, I think Rashid, the chairman of the ERC, has already stated publicly that they are not proposing to amalgamate Sabah and Sarawak together with Peninsula and make it one constituency, because that would disadvantage Sabah and Sarawak. But I think the proposal is that Sabah remain as one unit on its own, Sarawak one unit, but the Peninsula looking at a separate unit. So when the system that is actually being proposed by the ERC this time is lead PR. In other words, proportional representation, where the voter just need to cast their vote for the party, So Peninsula voters cast their vote for Party A or Party B or Party C, and according to the percentage of votes they receive in Peninsula, the seats will be assigned to them accordingly. That is, I think, what the ERC is looking at. So in that sense, no votes would be wasted.
Okay, so Thomas, for proportional representation then, do you expect anyone to oppose these changes?
In fact, I think ever since the Tan Sri Rashid mentioned about it, we have read that quite a number of opposition politicians and academics have voiced their concern and even outright opposition. But I think that is a very healthy sign, because I think it's getting people to start talking, discussing, and in conversation. I think the ERC is not like dogmatic, insisting that it must be this system or none at all. But I think it is a proposal, and that's why the feedback from the public, from the political party, is so important. We want to hear everybody's concern so that we can come up with a system that all of us can own, and all of us can, together compete in a healthy way without destroying the country.
Right.
Thomas, in the last minute or so that we have, tell us how civil society, as you say, Bersih is instrumental in putting electoral reform on the national agenda. What role will it play from now till decisions are made to, in fact, raise awareness about the complexities of the choices before the Malaysian public?
Okay, I think maybe many are unaware that actually Bersih is part of the Electoral Reform Committee. And that was a surprise to us as well. When the committee was formed, we received an invitation to be part of that committee. And along with myself, our resource person, Dr. Wong Chin Huat, my executive director, Mr. Yap Sui Seng, and our Sarawak vice chairperson, Antio, is on the committee and actively involved. So a lot of the proposal that is coming out, including electoral system change, delineation, we have input into that.
All right.
So that is the input. So what we have been doing together with ERC and also on our own is to engage the public as well. So we were part of that 21 consultation around the country. But on our own also, we have conducted the consultation and workshops in Sabah, Sarawak, and Peninsula as well to introduce these reforms. So this will be something that we continue to do this year and after this.
All right, well, we can look forward to continuing having these types of conversations right here on Consider This, electoral reform being a key focus of Malaysia Baru. All right, thank you so much for speaking with us, Thomas. We'll be back with more on Consider This after these messages. Don't go anywhere.